Hello, this is a tutorial on getting your player to walk up to an NPC or an object. A label with information on what button to press will appear. You can press that, it will pause the game, and a text box will appear, a dialog box. You can keep pressing that key to read all of the lines of dialogue from this specific NPC or character. When you read all the lines, the text box disappears, the game resumes. You can go back to that player and read the same lines. You can go to another NPC and read some other lines. Let's get this going. Let's see how to make this. Alright, so let's make the text box dialogue scene so that we can actually see our text show up when we want it to. And our root node for this is going to be something different. It's not going to be a 2D scene node. We're going to click on Other Node, and we're going to look for Canvas Layer. It's this little white square with a brush in it. And what this does is it will appear always in front of everything. The canvas layer will always be on top of our game so that none of our nodes or assets or sprites are going to be blocking the way for this. And the first thing that we're going to need for our canvas layer's child is a margin container. We're going to have another one of these, but for now, this is where the basis of our text box, our dialog box will be. We're going to find this icon. It's a green circle with a little plus mark on it. It's going to change the placement. We're going to choose the bottom wide option. Square with like the bottom half of the screen where a text box would be. We're going to size this up. The size of it will change. But we don't want it covering the entire screen. Like this is going edge to edge. So instead, we are going to give it some margins. I'm going to give it like 50 pixels off of the sides. We don't have to take any off of the top, but I will take some off of the sides and the bottom. So now we have a margin container with a little bit of buffer room. We're going to give 2 children to our margin container. We're going to give it a panel to hold our text, and we're going to give the margin container another margin container child. That's where our text will actually be written. Our panel, I'm going to give it some other margins. So we're going to go to theme override style. We're going to give it the style box flat. This will allow us to click on the little rainbow. We can then change the color of it. I'm going to make it purple. I like the purple. We're going to give it a border. Give it a 25 pixel border on all sides. And let's give that border a color. Let's make it black. Our text will be within that. And we're going to go to this margin container. We're also going to give it some margin so our text sits nicely inside of this panel. I'm going to give it 50 on all sides. So now our text will sit nicely within this purple panel within our overall margin container for our dialog box. And now within this second margin container, we're going to give it 2 more children. It's going to have another panel, and it's going to have an HBox container. And what an HBox container does is all of the node children within it will be spread out horizontally. So our text will be it will always be, you'll see what I mean when we add our labels. We're going to have like a starting asterisk where our text will begin. We will then have our text in the middle, and then we'll have a little ending, an ending character for our player to understand that the text that has been on this line is read. Continue pressing on to read more text. So let's get our text set up. We're going to use 3 labels. If you have a special font, you can drag that in. I have a font here. You can download any off Google for free. I'm going to drop that in my assets folder. It's any.ttf file will work for fonts. Just going to click and drag that on in. And then when I go to my label, this is my text. I'm going to go to its font properties. Let's change its size to be 50 so we can see it. And I'm going to click the down arrow on font. Quick load and find my new cool pixel font. It looks like a scroll had written it in pixel type. And we're going to copy this label, click on the HBox container, and paste 2 times so that they are all children of the HBox container. And you can see that they have nicely aligned themselves horizontally because their parent is the HBox container. If I were to child one, or paste one somewhere else, they're not nicely aligned. So we want them to all be children on the same hierarchical level of our HBox container. Before I go any further, I realized I made a hierarchical issue. My HBox container is supposed to be the child of my margin container. You'll see that right now its orange text is only surrounding what's within its labels, what's within its children nodes. If I take it and make it a child of the margin container, it now expands to be the entirety of the margin container. That's what I want. We want our text to be able to fill out into the full rectangle. I'm going to take my starting symbol. I'm going to change its character to be an asterisk just to look like a starting symbol. I'm going to rename the label to start. I'm going to take this, rename it to text. Take our ending symbol, rename it to end, and also update its characters to look like. I'm going to progress to the next line of dialogue. This is fine and dandy, but now our text is in the middle of our box. We don't really like that. And type it out, it's going to make our margin box bigger than the actual scene. So we don't want that. Instead, I'm going to take my start symbol. We're going to go to container sizing properties. We're going to make it shrink begin both horizontally and vertically. And we're going to take our end symbol and we're going to make that shrink end horizontally and vertically. We're going to take our text and we're going to expand it horizontally and we're going to expand it, fill it. There's two more things we need to do to our text. We want to turn auto wrap on with words so that it actually wraps and doesn't expand our dialog box. And now we have a little issue that says we must have a positive custom minimum or maximum width configured. Let's say make it 5 pixels, that's fine. Now, this is awesome, but my font is looking a little bleak. I have dragged in my own font. You can take any .ttf file. You can download them from Google Fonts. I can direct you other places to find fonts. But you can just click and drag similar to adding in images. I have it here. I'm going to select all of my labels. I'm going to go to its font properties. I'm going to upsize this. Let's give it 70 pixels. And I'm going to change my font to the one that I have imported. Awesome. Looks very, very dainty, as if like a scribe has written this texture book. The last thing we want is if we want our text to be typed out while the player is loading it, like it's reading in like Ace Attorney or Animal Crossing. We can click our canvas layer and add another child, an animation player. I'm going to make a new animation by clicking this animation button. Call this reveal. Add the plus sign to create a new property track for our animations. And select the text, which is the text that will be typed out. And we're going to find its visible ratio. And now, once we have created this track, we'll see that there's some keys over here, so we can keyframe things. I'm going to select my text label, the one that I want to keyframe, and we're going to find its visibility ratio. Visible ratio. I'm going to keyframe it at 0, so there's no text visible. Keyframe that at the beginning. Take my timeline, go to the end of my animation, and I'm going to animate it to be the visibility ratio at full 1. Keyframe that, and I want to hit play. My text types out. Now that might be fast, but we're going to adjust the ratio in script. But that is the requirements that we need for our canvas layer. I'm going to save this. This is going to be, I'm going to put it in components. I'm just going to call this dialogue. Wait, no, actually I think I'm going to call this dialogue first. Save. Final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a script to our parent canvas layer. I'm going to call this dialog_boxgd. It's done it for me automatically. And I'll save my changes and we will continue. Alright, I have my dialog box script open. We're going to start adding some constants, some onReady variables, some variables. Let's see. First, I want a constant for my character read rate. I'm going to set this to a really small number. We can change this as much as we want later on, but that will change how fast our animation for text showing up will play. can adjust that as much as you like, wherever you want. We're also going to make a bunch of onReady variables. So when the game starts, when the scene runs, these variables will be created in this script. The first one we need is one for our text box container. It is of type margin container, and it is equal to our top child margin container that holds all of the other children within our scene. And you can just click and drag that node right in there, and it'll give it a $, hinting that it is referencing the node in the scene that the script is attached to. We're going to create a few more onReady variables. The next one, I guess the next three are going to reference the labels that we've made. So this one's going to be our start, this one's going to be our text, this one's going to be our end. They are all of type label. I can actually type this label, and they are all equal to their respective label names and references in our scene. So there we go. And the last one we need is a reference to our animation player. onReady animation player, and I'm going to that is of type animation player, and it is equal to the animation player in our scene. All right, the next setup we need for our dialog box script is an enumerator for the state of like where reading our text is. Are we ready to read? Are we reading? Are we finished reading? And we're gonna name 3 states like so: ready, reading, and finished. Beautiful. We need a few more variables. We need one that will hold our current state, so the current state within our enumerator. It is of type state, and we want it to originally be in the ready state by default. Our next variable is going to be for the next text that is in queue to be read. It is of type array that holds strings. We'll go over that in a minute. And we are going to set it to an empty array. An array is like a list. It holds several objects of the same type, in this case of type string. And a string is a combination of characters. In this case, our string is the text that will be read from the dialogue of an NPC or an interactable object. And we will have that text in each specific NPC editable in our inspector. It will be a exported variable that we can adjust, so you can drag as many NPCs with the same script and then change what their text is in the inspector in the main scene. The final variable we're going to need for now is if our dialogue is active. So var dialogue active of type boolean, and it is equal to false by default. This is going to be useful for if we are running, we're going to pause our game when the text box is active. That way our player can't like run away or die or get injured when you're talking to somebody. Just like quality of life stuff, so we don't get any weird glitches. So before I start typing stuff in already, I'm gonna basically make like a shell of the extra quality of life functions we're gonna need for this. We're gonna need a few. We're gonna need a start dialogue. Dialogue. We're gonna need some arguments for this one. This one's gonna need lines. Gonna need our array, our string references. So lines is like the name of the argument, and this is the type. So we're going to reference some strings within our scripts, and it's going to give us back nothing, which is why it's returning void. Put a pass in there. Hold on to that. The next function we're gonna make is we're gonna check if check is busy if we are currently typing something out, and we are actually going to return something. So instead of void, we're going to return a bool, so it's going to be a true or false return. So we're going to run this function. It's going to determine if we are currently busy, if we are currently texting something, and then we are going to return it as false or true based upon that. For now, I'm just going to type pass. We're going to do the logic later. The next one is for if the player has decided they don't want to wait for the text to be typed. we are instead going to skip the reveal. Skip that animation. We're not going to return anything. This is going to be a void function. I'm going to say pass for now. The next one is going to be advance. Another void function. And then form that pass. This one is going to be ending the dialogue. What will happen when we are done speaking to our NPC or interactable object. This one's going to return nothing as well. Also going to need one to hide the text box. This is a quality of life. Text box. This is not going to return anything. It's going to be void. We're going to need a function to show our text box. Another empty function or void function. It won't return any information. It's just going to run a few lines of code. And finally, we're going to need a function to display our text. I lied, there's 2 more functions that we need. We need a function to change our state between ready, reading, and finished. This one's actually going to take in an argument. We're going to name it next state, and it is going to be of type state. But it's going to return nothing. It's going to return void. And finally, we're going to add a function for on animation finished. I'm going to give it a animation name string name. It's going to return. So we'll get back to all these functions. I know that was a lot, but we're gonna need them all at least stated before we start going crazy. Like this, you should be okay to spawn at least. So let's get ready in our function, our ready function. So the first thing we're gonna do is I'm going to set the process mode to always be on. So when we when we start reading and pause our scene tree, when we're reading in text, we want this node that the script is attached to, our canvas layer, to continue on. So we're not going to pause the entire scene tree. We're going to pause everything except for this node. And that's similar to how the pause menu works. If you look at the pause menu script. Oh, beautiful. We're also going to hide our text box. We're going to call that function that we haven't yet added anything to, but it exists, so there's going to be no error when we type out a function that has not yet been made. And then we're going to go to our animation player, and if the animation is finished, we're going to connect that to our function on animation finished. Beautiful, beautiful. I think our ready function is done. Let's move on to process. So in our process function, we're going to start. Oh wait, I put this in process. That's supposed to be in ready. Now we're going to start working in our process function. We are going to set up our enumerator. So we're going to match our current state. This is a variable we made to hold our current state. We're going to match that to the enumerators of our states. If we are in state ready, and if our text queue is not empty, if it is not empty, then we are going to display our text. Beautiful, beautiful. If we are in state reading, and if we have inputted is action press interact, which we will have to add to our input map in a little bit. So if we are in the reading state and we have inputted the action interact, we are going to give the reveal. Ignore my Uncle Steve's text, please. Give the reveal. Now, if we are in state finish, and if we input the interact button, we're going to advance onwards to the next line of dialogue that we want to read. That would be why I'm typing in action. It should be is. Beautiful. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. I think that's our function, our process function all set up. Well, let's get into the start dialogue. So, if our dialogue is active, if it is active, we're gonna return. We don't need to start the dialogue because we are already active. Otherwise, if our we're gonna set our dialogue active to true. We're gonna update and update our text queue to be equal to duplicate of our line. We're going to change the state to ready. If we are busy, if our dialogue is currently active, we're going to return our dialogue active. If we have skipped the reveal, we want to stop our animation player, animation player.stop. We want our, oh no, I named this text, not label. We want our text visibility ratio to equal 1. We want it to fill out all the way because we have skipped the typing of it. We want to change the state. Change state to finished. Good there. Let's move on to our advanced function. Let me get this out of the way. There we go. Now, if our text queue is empty, there is no more lines of dialogue to be said. Dot is empty. We're going to end the dialogue. Else, we're going to change the state to state.ready. Now, let's do our end dialogue, which we just referenced up here. We're going to say that our dialogue active is equal to false. We're no longer active because we ended it. We're going to hide the text box. We're going to unpause the tree, which we haven't even paused it yet. We'll get to that. Unpause equals to pause is equal to. And we're going to change the state to ready. For hiding the text box, I'm going to say text box container hide. Showing the text box, we're gonna say text box container dot show, and we are going to pause our tree. A tree dot pause equals true. Why doesn't it like this? Oh my goodness. Am I crazy? It's spelled the same. Just gonna continue and we'll tackle that error in a minute. Let's just finish filling out functions. Finally, our display text function, we're gonna say the next text type string is equal to what is up next in our text queue. And to get that reference to what is up next, we're going to use the pop front function. Our label or text.text is going to be equal to our next text. And our text.visible ratio is going to be set to 0, so we don't see it at all. We're going to show the text box. We're going to change the state to reading. Nice. We're also going to talk about our character read ratio here. We're finally going to get that read rate variable. So we need a variable for our target duration. The reason why we're not putting this variable out here is because we don't need the whole script to use this variable. We just kind of need it only in this method. We're not going to utilize it anywhere else. So that's why we're putting the variable in our function, or instantiating it there. Our target duration is going to be a float. And it's going to be equal to this big method. So within max, so it has a min-max value. We're going to take the length of our next text that will appear, and multiply that by our character read rate. The maximum time is going to be like 0.01. You can change that. You can adjust that to how you want. Make a new variable. This one's going to be for the animation length. This is going to be of type float as well, and it's going to be equal to animation player. Get the animation reveal. Then we're going to get reveal's length. We're going to say animation player set speed scale equal to the animation length divided by the target duration. And now we're going to have the animation player play reveal. Beautiful. All right, just 2 more functions to fill out, and maybe a little debugging session. We're going to set our current state equal to the next state. Pretty simple function, nothing to worry about there. For on animation finished, we're going to say if our animation name is equal to reveal, then change the state to state.finished. All right, let's see why. Oh, I'm just being silly. I forgot 2 little parentheses. There we go. Beautiful. So that is our script. If you guys run into any issues, I'll help you debug in class. But this is our script for our dialog box. The next step we're going to do is go to our project settings. We're going to go to the input map. We're going to add a new action called interact. I'm going to make this button T, I guess, T for talk. Now we have added that, so when we check if our input just pressed interact is happening, it will actually be looking at the input map or an interact key. The next thing we want to do is we want to take our dialog box script and we want to make it so that any other script in our whole game can reference this script and any of its variables and components within. So let's go to project settings. Instead of referencing the script over and over again, we're just going to create an autoload or singleton. So we're going to select the entire dialog box scene, not the script, the dialog box scene. We want to be able to reference any of the nodes within the dialog box scene. That's why. Alright, the next thing we have to do is we have to make an NPC that can talk. So I'm going to give it a change this node to be an area 2D. Our node will be area 2D. It needs a collision box, collision shape 2D. So I'm gonna give that good old square, good old rectangle. And he's gonna need a sprite. We can choose anyone we want. Quick load, blue guy. Make him upside down. That's fun. This can be whatever you guys want. Whatever you want the player to talk to, this is gonna be the sprite you're gonna use. Let's check its collision shape. Let's make it a little big. We're gonna make it wider than the actual guy because this is going to detect if the player is nearby and they're pressing the interact button. Then we will talk to them. We could give him an animated sprite, but we don't need to. And the last thing we're gonna add is a label. This is completely optional. Well, I gotta sneeze. Bless me. This is completely optional, but this is just telling the player to press the key that they might want to press to talk to them. We could use that cool font if we wanted, but kind of looks silly with the capital T, not gonna lie. That's difficult to look at, so I guess we'll make this a lowercase d to be easier to look at. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now we're gonna add a interactable script. Let me change this guy to be called interactable. I'll make an interactable script. We're gonna add that. The first thing we're gonna do in our interactable script is give it a class name. So anything with the script attached to it is labeled as a interactable. We're gonna export a few variables. This one, as I said before, is going to be the variable for the dialogue. It's going to be of type array, an array of type string, and it's going to be equal to an empty array by default. Our other export variable is going to be for our interact prompt. And it is of type, actually it's of type label. Canvas item would probably encapsulate that. I'm going to say label because it says label. So we're going to have a few variables. Our first variable is going to be if the player is in range. Player in range, that could be type bool. By default, it's going to be set to false. Another variable is was dialogue previously active. We don't want our player to be stuck in a loop of constantly pressing the T button and they can't escape. So we're going to check if it was previously active so that we don't get stuck in a loop like that. And we're also going to be awaiting the key release. So when the player lets go of the key, that's how we know that we have gone on to the next line of text and we will not be presenting them the option of continuing to talk to the NPC unless they specifically go back and try to. We don't want them to get stuck in that endless loop. So let's see, I don't think the only extra functions we're going to do is add them through signals, I believe. So let's check out our ready function, what we have to add there. So we also want the process mode of this node to be process mode always. We don't want it to pause when we're pausing and talking to them. We are going to check if the body entered. We're going to connect it just to check if the player has entered the collision shape 2D. That's how you do it without signals. type it out. Body exited. And if the interact prompt there, we're going to hide it. Like if we interacted with it, we're gonna hide it. Stay not scope. That's because we haven't defined them yet. So to get rid of that, I'm just gonna define them real quick. Doing it the hard way. And we will take a argument. It is going to be of body, which is of type node. I'm gonna copy this. Body exited. It's not like it. See. Oh, beautiful. Now let's start adding what we need into our process function. We're going to create a variable to check if we're busy. It's going to be of type bool. And it's going to be equal to if our dialog is. The way we can reference our dialog box is how we made our dialog box a AUTOLOAD script, a singleton script that any other script can access. So that's how we're able to reference this boolean in our dialog box script. And now if was our dialog active and not busy, then we are awaiting the key release. Key release. It's true. Afterwards, we're going to set our dialog equal to busy. Was dialog active? Yes, we are now busy. And the question is, if we are awaiting the key response or the key release, and if we have not input the is action just pressed interact key, then we are not awaiting the key release. This is false. And we're going to return. Otherwise, if the player is in range and we are not busy and the input is action just pressed for interact has been inputted, then our dialog box is going to start dialog. And we are going to start the dialog of the dialog lines. I think I just called it, I just called it dialog here. So we're going to reference the dialog that will be in our inspector for our NPC object. We're going to call the dialog box script, and we are going to start the dialog method from the dialog box script. If our player is in range, they are not busy, which means they have not already talked to them, and we have pressed the interact key. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Now, for our onBody entered and exited functions, we are going to say if the body that has entered our collision 2D is in group, and it is in group players, and we are going, oh, no, just if it is in group players, we're going to say the player is in range. Oh, player in range. In range is equal to true. And if the interact prompt has been interacted, did I spell it like that? That's what I thought. If the interact prompt has been interacted, we are going to, I spelt it wrong. Yes, I feel a little silly. Get that to be spelled correctly. we're going to show our interact prompt. When we enter, we want to show it. I guess we don't actually need these if statements because this is checking like if it exists. We can just show it. So like if the player enters this node, then show the interact prompt. Where did I? Yeah, we don't need an if statement for that. We can just hide it here as well in our ready function. And now for our body exited function, we're gonna say if the body is in group players, we're gonna say the player range is false. We are no longer near the NPC. We have exited it. We are also going to say hide the interact prompt. All right, beautiful. We're going to save this as an interactable, or I guess we could. No, that's fine. We'll just save it there. Should be good. And now if we go to main, well, I want to assign my interact prompt. It is this label. And by default, I want our only string to be hello. Beautiful. Save that, go to main. Let's find our interactable. So our interactable scene, there he is. And let's see what errors we run into. All right, let's see how it goes when we run this. So I am my player, I move towards the sky. The label shows up because I am within his collider. I select T, and it says hello. I can't move because the game is paused. I hit T again to leave, and now I can move and talk to him again. Let's see if we can make him say more than just hello. So if I select tile mount to select my player, I'm going to update this to say, dude, get out of here. This is a dangerous place. Very, very. I'm going to copy this a bunch to see how it looks like when we have a pretty long line. Let's run this and see what happens. Oh, dude, get out of here. That is a difficult font to read in all caps. This is a very, very, very dangerous place. So we see that our text is clipping properly, and we can continue onwards. And this is great because we can drag multiple interactive guys over here. They're all by default going to say hello because that's how we have it in the interactable scene. We have them as hello as their default. So we're going to select on them each. We're going to say, instead of hello, bro, turn around. This guy's going to say, why are you still going this way? Now when I hit play, talk to them, this guy will say his thing, and this guy will say his thing.